I thought the end of the world had come when my mother died. I had just turned 26 and was planning a future with my fiancé Mason. We lived just a few blocks away from my childhood home, and everything in life felt like it was falling into place until that dreaded call came in the middle of the night. My father's trembling voice said only two words. "She's gone, the funeral was a blur." Friends and family came from all over, offering their condolences and castles. I remember holding my father's hand at the graveside service. His grip was tight, like he was afraid to let go of the only thing that still tethered him to her. My mum had been his high school sweetheart. They'd been married for over 30 years. I couldn't imagine the pain he was going through in the weeks that followed. I found myself visiting him more often than not. At first it was just to make sure he was eating, then it became an emotional check-in. Eventually I was doing laundry there again, tidying up the place like I did when I was a teenager. The house hadn't changed, but without Mum it felt hollow, empty, like a shell of the home. It used to be one afternoon about 3 weeks after the funeral, I came over with groceries. I was sorting things into the fridge when he walked into the kitchen, looking unusually serious. "Jessica," he said, using the full tone he used when something was important. "I need to ask you something." "What's up, Dad?" "I want you to move back in for a little while," I asked him. "What and why?" I asked. "You know, Mason and I." He gently cut me off. I know, it's just this house is too quiet. I haven't been sleeping well. I eat dinner alone. I wake up alone. And it's not something I'm used to." I could see the pain in his eyes, the loneliness, a kind of sadness. I hadn't seen even during the funeral. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Okay," I said finally, "but just for a little while." Mason understood, but he wasn't sure. "It's a hard time," he said. "But if you think it will help him heal, go for it. Just don't lose yourself in it, Jess." After packing a small suitcase, I went back to the house where I grew up. My old room was exactly as I had left it. Posters of bands from my teenage years were still stuck to the walls. The bed was small and the mattress was worn, but there was something comforting about being back. The first few days were surprisingly calm. I cooked dinner, we watched TV, and Dad even smiled a few times. It felt like progress. But then little things started happening, weird requests. One night, he asked me to sit with him in the living room until he fell asleep. "The house feels less empty when you're around," he said softly. I didn't think much of it, but the next night, he asked me to wear Mum's old robe because, as he put it, "you look just like her in it." That seemed strange, but I put it down to grief because losing someone so important can change our reality in ways we don't understand. Then there was the time I found him in the kitchen holding one of Mum's nightgowns, with his back to me. When he turned around, he whispered, "Sometimes I pretend she's still here." I wasn't sure whether to run away or hug him, so I stayed and comforted him. But inside, I started to wonder if this was just normal grief or if he was turning into something else. A few nights later, everything became clear and scary. We were having spaghetti and meatballs for dinner. He slowly buttered his bread and then looked up at me and said, "I've been thinking about moving on." I smiled and said, "That's good. Dad and Mum wouldn't want you to be alone forever." He agreed, but I didn't want a new person. I wanted someone who knew me and would understand this place. I tilted my head, confused. "Okay," he reached across the table and gently took my hand. "I want you to stay, not just as my daughter, but as my partner." I froze at first. I thought I misheard, that I'd misunderstood, that his words had meant something else. But then I saw the look in his eyes, the way he held my hand, just a little too long. The pause in his breath, I yanked my hand away. "No, Dad, that's not okay." He immediately backtracked, apologized, said it was just a thought, that grief had twisted his brain, that he didn't mean it. I nodded, but I didn't believe him that night. I called Mason. I told him everything. "Jess, you need to get out of there," he said. Tonight I didn't leave right away. Something in me needed closure. I needed to understand what was really going on the next day. While Dad went for his morning walk, I went into his room. I hadn't snooped in years, but I was desperate for answers. I opened his desk drawer and found a stack of journals neatly arranged. Dated, most of the entries were filled with pain-long passages about missing Mom, about how the house felt like a prison, about how the nights dragged on. But as I read further, the tone shifted. He wrote about me, about how much I reminded him of her, about how one of the entries said, "Jessica is my light in this darkness. Maybe she was meant to come back for more than just help. Maybe this is the universe wanting to tell me something." As I told him I was going, I felt sick to my stomach. "You need help, Dad," I told him. I stated, "Real help. This is more than grief. This is something deeper, and it's not healthy." He didn't fight me at first. He just looked like a broken man. "You're right," he said quietly. "I've been lost. When I got back to Mason, it was like stepping into another world. I slept for 12 hours straight the first night, and when I woke up, I cried not out of fear, but because I was sad. I had lost both parents in a way, one to death and the other to something I still couldn't quite name. Weeks went by, and Dad started therapy and joined a grief support group. I kept in touch, but I set limits. Slowly, he started to change. He planted new flowers in Mum's garden, started cooking his own meals, and even made some new friends from his group. It wasn't perfect, but it was something for me. I learned how complicated grief can be and how it can change your perception of reality. But I also learned that real love sometimes means walking away, setting limits, and saying no. I still see him once a week, and we talk about my mum, share stories, laugh, and even cry sometimes. But we never talk about that night, and we never will. Some things are better left in the past, and some lines can never be crossed again, but healing is still possible.